You're live, Rick.
Okay, thank you, Ashley. The meeting will now come to order. Welcome to the June 12, 2023 meeting of the City of Asheville Noise Advisory Board. My name is Rick Freeman and I am the Vice Chair. I'll introduce each agenda item and facilitate the meeting to help our audience follow along. All committee members and staff are participating virtually today. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the Noise Advisory Board page. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. I will now go through and introduce all the board members who are participating virtually. Make sure to mute your microphone if you're not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, unmute your microphone. Board members, as I call your name, please acknowledge your presence. Reb Hazlett?
Here.
David Ledger?
Here.
Carmelo Papilonio? Not present. Jessica Thomason? Not present. Jeff Santiago?
Here.
Liliana Woody? Also not present. We have a quorum. In addition to the board members, we have the following additional people present. Councilwoman Antoinette Mosley.
Good afternoon.
Todd Justice.
Hello.
And Ashley Stanley.
Hi.
Okay, let us get started with the simple stuff first. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting? Reb Hazlett made the motion. Can I get a second? Jeff Santiago seconded. Can I get a vote? Let's do a roll call vote. That just leaves myself. I approve. And David Ledger, yay or nay?
Yay.
All right, great, thanks. The rest of our agenda is, Ashley, could you put the agenda up, please?
Yes, 1 second.
I'll go through it verbally while she's doing the magic behind the scenes. We're going to do a check-in on the staff report. So have your questions ready for Todd and company. And then we have old business. The document Jessica and I have prepared for the Environment and Safety Committee. We'll take a look at that, which we'd love your feedback on. And then I'll give a brief update on the decibel investigation. So let's start with the staff report. Could you display that, Ashley?
Okay, I'm working on it.
That's okay. Anybody have any questions while we're waiting for it to come up? Seeing heads no everywhere. Todd, anything you'd like to add while we're seeing if it can come to life?
No, nothing of a general nature that we didn't cover last month. So
okay. All right. Anything that anybody would particularly like to see? Jeff. Jeff, your audio is breaking up. I'm sorry.
In regard,
now we can't hear you at all, Jeff.
how about now?
That's pretty good.
Okay.
I was hoping to get, I was able to access the link to one email for public input on the bottom of that report, but I could not get to, I didn't have access to the last two links on that report.
Would you like Ashley to display it now, Jeff? So we can take a quick look? Is that your preference?
Yeah, either that or a permission to the link.
Yeah, for you referring to the email complaints one and two?
Yes.
The
Yeah.
noise and, okay. I'll work
That's
on
all. I
it
just want to
for
see
you.
what they had to say. I read the other one, but I couldn't access that one.
Yeah, let's not share that here. We can forward that
Yeah.
to Jeff.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, if I could just
Okay.
get access to it, that's fine. Thank you.
Mhm.
It'd be a good idea, perhaps Ashley and Todd, for, I don't know, maybe somebody outside of the city to run through the links before the meetings, because you guys have privileges to everything, but those of us who are on the outside, we get hung up sometimes. So maybe we could think of a process for that. Maybe at the planning meeting the week before, maybe we could do that. Any other questions on staff report? Okay, I see a bunch of no's. Then we are going to move forward, and I'm going to put Ashley through trials again. Could you put up the slides that Jessica and I produced so that I can walk through them quickly and then take feedback from the team?
Yeah.
Okay, give me just a moment to get those up for you.
Perfect. Okay, so Jessica and I worked on these set of slides just to remind everybody on the board and anyone who's watching from the public. These slides are based on the annual report that we submitted to City Council and the committee at the beginning of the year. And we have a meeting scheduled for June 27th, so 2 weeks and a day now, where we will present these slides and seek approval from the Environment and Safety Committee to follow on the recommendations that we have proposed. The way we're going to work this is Jessica is going to do the first handful of slides up to and through the vehicle noise presentation, and then I'm going to handle the waste hauler plan and the final one. So go ahead to the next slide, please. This is just verbatim the mission statement that we all settled on way back when we started this baby more than a year and a half ago. We didn't add anything else to it, but we figured it was necessary to remind the committee of why we're here and what our objective is. Let's go on to the next slide. So this is our recommendation to address vehicular noise. I added, and Jessica approved, the statement in yellow as a way to try to ground the committee on why we're talking about this, right? Because we drive right into the details of where we're going to go and exhaust systems and all that kind of stuff. But we thought it would be a good idea if they understood in a sentence why anybody should care. Always open to text change or anything on this. And then basically the rest of this is straight from our recommendation, that we're empowered to work with city staff to revise the ordinance if necessary, to reduce this noise, and then we're going to go out and do additional research, and work with the police department, etc. Can you go one more slide and then I'll come back to this one. And then we spice it up a little bit with a couple of pictures. This is hopefully, Reb, in concert with what the actual plan would be if we get the approval to proceed. And basically we want to make the case that we're not asking for 24/7 enforcement. We're looking for best practices from other locations, other cities that would make a dent and people would understand that there's a deterrent and that people can be cited. Any comments or questions at this point? I mean, I think we're hoping to engage some debate, you know, but basically this should be something that's not controversial, that hopefully the committee members will have observed this kind of noise in a downtown setting themselves and have probably heard from their constituents and businesses to this case.
Can you go back one slide, Rick? Or
Please do.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that it was clear that this might result in potential changes to the ordinance itself, but I think it's implied.
Yeah, we want, yes.
Okay.
And if they ask that question, we'll specifically answer that, yes, there's a chance it may cause changes to the ordinance, and we'll work that very carefully with city staff. Okay, let's go down to the one more after this. So again, this is basically our recommendation as was written. The highlighted line that sort of shows why downtown residents complain about this kind of thing, and that we think a new plan is needed to accomplish this. And then we rearranged the content a little bit, so it doesn't match the exact order as the way it's written in the recommendation. But I wanted to highlight that we've already worked with downtown residents who want to participate in this. And therefore, we're asking for support from this committee or city council if required, that we put a task force together to seek new methods. And it would include business owners, residents, and sanitation staff. Next page, please. Then just kind of reinforce it, that our goal would be to minimize waste pickup costs, improve public safety, and align with other North Carolina cities that have start times that are 6 a.m., 7 a.m. So we know that it can actually be done, and to work as a team with all the people to come up with a strong recommendation on how this could take place. Before we go on to the last one, any questions on the waste hauler slides? I don't see any. Okay. And then we just finish with, you know, by the time this works its way through, it will be nearly 2 years since the noise ordinance has been approved and put into place. So now would be a good time to get feedback from the public and businesses, business owners and so forth, on how this is working out for them. Let's get the public's view of the success or challenges with the current noise ordinance. And I would say we did it in this order because it was similar to the order in the annual report, but in terms of importance and what I would hope would be easier decisions on behalf of the committee, if we can get 1 and 2 and delay 3, I think we'd live with that just fine. Because then we would have backing from the committee for action, which would encourage us to continue to do work on the upcoming things that we're working on, because we know we'd have a flying chance of getting their support for future changes too. Anything you guys think is missing? You know, we get like a 10-minute slot, so we're not going to do 15 slides. And we want to engage them. We want them to ask us why this is important and how is it likely to happen and that kind of stuff. So I hope this is the minimum set of words to do that. Any recommendations? Any questions from anybody? Okay, we're on a world record pace here for what was already a short agenda, which, based on smiles I'm seeing, that's okay with everyone. So I'm going to move on to the decibel investigation update, which has no paperwork, so you can just see my smiling face. Here's where we are. I went back to the people who had complained, had measurements taken to found to be no violation, who then answered the survey we ran last year. And part of that survey was, would you be willing to participate? And approximately half of the people who said they would participate responded in the affirmative. So we've got 6 or 8 people so far that have responded that they would participate. And before I go farther and reach out to those who haven't replied in any way whatsoever, I just wanted to bring everybody up to date on where we are. So, you know, we've got people around the typical sound sources that we're all very familiar with. I won't go through that in detail here. I think we just be going over it again and again. So we have enough places, we have enough people to go that we can trial out our work and we can work on our processes and that sort of thing. So I'm not going to strengthen the pool of candidate locations until we get a couple more things done. So that my job is to be the overall planner, coordinating the work of the working group that's doing this stuff. And I'll handle the paperwork and getting out to everybody and putting a plan together. Jeff has sent me this morning, which I didn't get a chance to look at, a bunch of venue dates. You want to tell me a little bit about what you got there, Jeff?
Yeah. Right now we have dates through September, outdoor event dates in there. I'm still looking for more, but so I will continue to add to that. This way, the compliance team has an idea of when the event will be going on, if any complainants are specific to those now sound sources. So
okay,
it's a pretty good list already. So there's plenty to look at and plenty of opportunities to go check on things from that list.
Great. The other task that I haven't seen any written progress on, but we only really kind of got it off the ground last week. We have is exactly the process for taking the decibel readings. We have a good process from the ordinance on taking dBA readings. That's been defined. We know exactly how the meter is supposed to be set up for that. The only complexity that we have yet to sort out is how we take those readings indoor, because that's kind of not how it was all set up, and you know, what are the circumstances going to be and that sort of thing. So Reb and David and Carmelo are the appointed trio, the 3 musketeers, to think about that. And then on the DBC side, there are no methods prescribed by the noise ordinance, because the noise ordinance doesn't currently recognize DBC as either a modifier to the dBA levels that are acceptable or as a measurement in and of itself. So we need that team to work with Todd and his compliance guys to understand the ability of our meters to take DBC and what parameters there are, at least to know whether we can build a process that uses those meters, which I hope would be the case, because it's going to get complicated if we do otherwise. But and then just what the location logistics will be for setting it up and taking the measurements, and both indoor and outdoor. So before I communicate anything that resembles a date or potential dates to either the compliance team or the complainants, we need to have at least a first draft working process on how we would do that. And probably what we would do is we would go out to just one complainant and walk through both the ambient measurements and the sound source present measurements to see if we've made any mistakes or if there's lack of clarity on how to take those measurements for those things before we would then go into the full phase of doing it with as many sound sources and complainants as we have gotten waivers signed for. So Reb or Dave, any thoughts on when you guys might be getting together, or homework that you've given each other or anything like that to start down that path?
We've not gathered as a group unless Dave and Carmelo have, but if they have, I haven't been a party to that conversation. I do think it's going to require a standardized methodology, as you yourself said, to take ambient, how you take the ambient, how you measure that, how you compare that to the A level reading at the time of the noise occurrence. But I also think we should take DBC. If most of these are entertainment related venue noise complaints, there's a lot of evidence suggesting that DBC is a more deleterious form of noise for health outcomes, but also that in comparison with A level, there's a differential between the two that it would be very telling in the way that you may or may not adjust A level readings in the ordinance based on C compared to A. And then whether or not there's some change in the future regarding C remains to be seen. But there are a lot of communities, anecdotally, I must have looked at a half a dozen example communities that have changed to C recently, Charlotte being one in particular. They have recently introduced an ordinance to measure in C. So I think there's a lot to be said for it. I think particularly with music venues, it's important. Because the low frequency is associated with performance, and the low frequency does not get adequately captured in an A-level reading. So that's a bit of a ramble. We probably do need to get together and put our heads together on a methodology. And Dave, is Dave still here? Hey, Dave's still here. I'll reach out through Ashley to Dave and Carmelo and see if we can't get together.
Anything to add, Dave?
No, that sounds good. I think, just get together with the working team and talk through all the details and the specs that are out there. And like Rep said, look at other cities and what's available. But yeah, it's a really complicated topic. Goes quite deep.
Yeah. So just keep in mind, I know we're all volunteers, but we're about to creep into July. And so everything will be going sort of full-fledged here. And if we can't at least have a model that we could execute sometime in July and then refine, we might have some difficulty getting to a variety of these complainants. So if you think of, some research, some homework, a draft, working with Todd and his guys, Todd, you got any thoughts you'd like to add to this with regards to the capability of the meters, or anything else you'd like to aim these guys at?
No, I think that, let's collect the data, and then we can kind of see what that tells us and where we can kind of go with it from there. At this point, I don't know enough about it, and I don't know, what kind of data we're going to get, if it's going to be significant or if it's going to be something we can rely on for a text amendment change or not. So I think we wait and see what we get.
Yeah. So
I think the methodology is easier than the logistics of organizing the measurements. And the reason is because you got to take basically two separate sets of measurements. You got to get an ambient. You can't rely on the city's ambient. It's a geospatial model that's an abstract. It's not an on-site ambient model. So you can't use that data for ambient. So you got to
Right.
set an ambient, and then you got to go measure against the ambient. So I mean, that's essentially the methodology. It's just hard to organize. It takes a long time to organize. We could write the methodology probably in a week.
If you can write it in a week, we'll start to line up the human beings to get out there and do it. And if you want to break it into two pieces, I remember having long debates way before the ordinance was approved about ambient measurements and how those should be performed. You know, we could do this in two phases, right? If we had an ambient protocol or process or whatever the right term is, we could schedule those on the off days and go hit, you know, 2 or 3 to get some baseline data while you guys are working on the actual DVC measurement technique. I got to leave it up to you guys to divide it and conquer it in the best way possible so that we can get back to it.
Sorry, Dave, I may have overcommitted this, but I'll get in touch with you soon.
And you know, I included Carmelo in this because he was very interested in attending the actual measurements. I haven't gotten any feedback from him on whether he's actually eager to participate in the definition of the measurements, but he did come to the table at either the last or the prior board meeting with lots of information about DVC. So just let me know if for some reason he's having some difficulty, too busy at work or whatever that is, because I don't want you guys to do a bunch of work and then have it stalled in the board meeting. Okay, you know, I'm acting on behalf of Jessica. I think it's my job to get to the board members and encourage them to participate. Okay.
How many measurements do you think you'll take? How many candidates have volunteered in numbers? I know it was half that you asked, but how many is that?
Around 10.
10, okay.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't bring the numbers with me and I'm not gonna look them up, but let's say 5 are all located around one sound source. So that would be conceivably one ambient trip to 5 different locations inside and outside, and 1 or 2 depending on how the sound source's timing is set up to go out and then get those kinds of things inside and outside as well. And that's going to depend, I think, somewhat on Todd's team, their availability.
Right.
Ambient, obviously, depending on how precise we want to be, it can be at different times of the day. But if the sound source is a performance venue, then those are going to be evening, you know, outside of the traditional business hours. So then we'll be dependent on Todd's team, I assume. But think about that, Todd. I mean, since we're gathering data, my assumption was you'd want it to be the compliance team because you'd want them to see what it's like to gather DVC compliance data and all that kind of stuff. But if we ended up in a serious problem of staff shortages or something like that, we could always discuss whether members of the NAB could be trained to take these, because they're not violation measurements. They're establishing a pattern of data. But I'll leave that to you, Reb, David, and Todd to chat that out.
Okay. Todd, have you got 2 meters, ANSI meters?
I believe we have a number of meters. I think only 2 of them measure C though.
Okay. Because you probably the best way to do it be side by side, but we can take that up. We can take up the methodology later. Okay.
Okay. So let me just restate kind of where we are. Jeff's got a list of venue dates that are going to be active, so we know how to work in them and around them for ambient. Reb, Carmelo, and Dave are going to work on protocol for ambient and DVC. I'm going to send an update to the people who've already said that they would participate to let them know we're working on it and we haven't fallen asleep. and see if anybody's going to drop out or anything like that. And then I'll share numbers back with the working group, and we'll decide whether I should solicit more candidates. Okay, and I don't see any reason why I can't go through my part of the process by the next board meeting. So we should have a pretty meaty update by that time. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Unless a board member has new business, we have no new business this week. Month. Anybody got anything new that they wanted to know about or talk about? Okay. Then that would bring us to public comment. Do we have anybody on the line for public comment, Ashley?
We do not.
Okay.
I'll make one, Rick.
Yeah.
I hope everybody gets an opportunity to read that article I sent out this morning. It's interesting.
The Times article?
Yeah, it's a good one.
I don't have a subscription. I was able to read it.
You were? Good.
Yeah, I had to say yes to a couple things. I don't think that I sold or gave away anything in my personal information in the process, but I was able to read it, and I got started on it.
It's a good article. I recommend it.
Okay. Anybody opposed to adjourning at the 1 hour or the 31-minute mark today? Nope. Going once, going twice. Oh, one more thing. Consider using your network to encourage your friends and colleagues to put a positive word forward to the public input for the safety and environmental meeting. I will be, in my other job as president of CAN, I will be informing our board and asking them to leak it down to all their email links and all that sort of thing, to have people put forward positive comments about the three things that we're trying to get done. A little bit of input from the community, I think, would only help our cause. So please feel free to get the word out. All right. Thanks, everybody. I think that's it. Bye.